Picture this. A major storm is bearing down on your city. Maybe it's a blackout that's been going on for days. Maybe it's something worse. You head to the nearest grocery store, and the moment you walk through those doors, you stop dead in your tracks. The shelves are bare. Rice? Gone. Pasta? Gone. Canned beans, bread, bottled water, wiped out like they were never there. And the people around you are grabbing whatever's left, a dented can of something, a single box of crackers, just to have something to bring home. Now here's the question nobody asks until it's too late. What would you have at home if the stores looked like that today? Most people think they're prepared. They've got a bag of rice, maybe some canned soup, a box of pasta in the back of the cabinet. And honestly, that's not nothing. But here's the problem. Those are exactly the foods that disappear first. They're on every prepper list, every emergency guide, every what to stockpile article on the internet. Which means when crisis hits, everyone goes for the same things at the same time. But there's another way to think about this. Tucked away in the aisles most people walk right past, there are 15 foods that almost nobody stockpiles. Foods with shelf lives that stretch years, sometimes decades. Foods packed with real nutrition, real calories, and real flavor. Foods that will still be sitting on those grocery store shelves long after everything else is gone. In this video, we're going through all 15 of them. You'll learn exactly what they are, why they work, how long they last, and how to start building a smarter, more resilient emergency pantry without spending a fortune. Stick around until the end because the last category might genuinely surprise you, and it could be the most important one of all. Welcome to Food Decider, the channel for people who want to eat smart, not just survive. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It helps more people find information that could actually make a difference when it counts. Let's get into it. Here's something most people never think about until they're already in trouble: cooking fat. When you're building an emergency food supply, you're probably thinking protein, carbohydrates, maybe vitamins. But fat? Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient on the planet, and without a reliable source of it, you're going to be eating flavorless, unsatisfying meals that leave you tired, hungry, and demoralized. Fat makes food taste like food. It carries flavor, fuels your body, and keeps you feeling full. And yet, when most people build their emergency pantry, they skip it almost entirely. So let's fix that, starting with one of the most underrated foods in the world: ghee. If you've never cooked with ghee before, here's what it is: clarified butter. You take regular butter, heat it slowly until all the water evaporates and the milk solids separate out, and what you're left with is pure golden butterfat. That's it. Simple process, extraordinary result. Now, why does that matter for emergency storage? Because regular butter spoils in weeks. Even in your refrigerator, it has a limited life. But ghee, real ghee, properly stored, can last for years at room temperature. In traditional preparations, people have kept ghee usable for decades, no refrigeration required. And a single jar, which you can find at most grocery stores for somewhere between $6 and $10, gives you a massive amount of cooking fat that will outlast almost everything else in your pantry. But it's not just about storage. Ghee has a smoke point of around 480 degrees Fahrenheit, which means you can sauté, fry, roast, and bake with it without it breaking down or burning. And the flavor? Rich, slightly nutty, deeply satisfying. A single spoonful stirred into a bowl of plain rice or lentils transforms it from something you eat because you have to into something you actually want to eat. That distinction matters more than people realize when you're days into an emergency and morale is running low. Keep 1 to 3 jars on hand, use it sparingly, and your cooking fat situation is solved for months. Now, right alongside ghee, you want coconut oil, and here's why they work as a pair rather than substitutes. Coconut oil is loaded with saturated fats, which is exactly what makes it so resistant to spoilage. Virgin coconut oil lasts 2 to 3 years without any special storage conditions, and experienced preppers report it remaining perfectly usable at the 5, 6, even 7-year mark. A jar typically runs $10 to $15, and unlike most oils, it's solid at room temperature, which makes it easy to store, impossible to spill, and very space efficient. The cooking applications are similar to ghee: high heat, frying, roasting, and baking, but coconut oil covers something ghee doesn't: personal care. When your supply chain is disrupted and your normal products run out, coconut oil works as a skin moisturizer, a lip balm, a basic salve for dry or cracked skin. That might sound like a small thing right now, but after a week without your usual routine in stressful conditions, those small comforts become genuinely important. Together, ghee and coconut oil give you a fat foundation that covers cooking, flavor, calories, and basic personal needs, all from 2 jars that cost you under $25 combined. Now we get into the heart of your emergency nutrition: proteins, grains, and the foods that actually keep your body functioning over days and weeks, not just hours. Let's start with something that's widely available but almost universally overlooked in emergency prep circles: lentils. Most preppers, when they think legumes, go straight for pinto beans or black beans. And those are fine, but lentils outperform them in an emergency situation in one critical way: they require no soaking. You just rinse them and simmer them for 20 to 25 minutes. When fuel is limited, when you're tired, when your situation is already stressful, that difference is enormous. Beans need to soak overnight and cook for an hour or more. Lentils are ready in under half an hour from dry. And the nutrition is outstanding. 1 cup of cooked lentils gives you 18 grams of protein and 16 grams of fiber. They keep you full, they keep your digestion functioning, and they come in varieties: red, green, brown, French, each with a distinct texture and flavor profile that helps fight something preppers rarely plan for: menu fatigue. Eating the same thing every single day breaks people down psychologically, and lentils give you genuine variety within a single food category. Shelf life, when vacuum packed with oxygen absorbers, stretches to 25 years or more. Cost is somewhere between $1.50 and $2 per pound. There is almost no better value in emergency food storage. Right next to lentils, you want split peas. They're on very few mainstream prepper lists, but the logic for including them is identical. No soaking required, quick cook time, high protein, high fiber, rich in essential minerals, and cheap at under $2 a pound. They're ideal for thick soups and stews, which are exactly the kind of warming, filling meals you want in cold or stressful conditions. And like lentils, properly vacuum-packed split peas can last up to 25 years. Now for your grains, and this is where we go beyond the obvious. Wheat berries. This is the intact wheat kernel before it's processed into flour, and that distinction is everything. Regular flour loses nutritional value within 1 to 2 years. Wheat berries, properly sealed, last 25 to 30 years. The vitamins and oils are locked inside that intact kernel, preserved until the moment you're ready to use them. A 50-pound bag runs $30 to $40 and contains somewhere between 75,000 and 80,000 calories, roughly 2,000 calories per dollar, which is an extraordinary return on investment. The versatility is what makes wheat berries truly remarkable. Grind them into fresh flour for bread, tortillas, pancakes, biscuits. Cook them whole as a hearty grain. Or, and this is one of the most underappreciated emergency food tricks, sprout them. Within a few days of soaking wheat berries in water, they sprout and give you fresh, living greens rich in vitamins. In an extended emergency where fresh produce is impossible to find, that capability is genuinely invaluable. Alongside wheat berries, consider popcorn kernels, and not just as a snack. Popcorn is a whole grain that can be ground into cornmeal and used for cornbread, tortillas, polenta, grits, or as a thickener for soups and stews. A 2-pound bag costs about $3, provides around 3,000 calories, and, like wheat berries, lasts 25 to 30 years when vacuum packed. The added advantage? The snack aisle tends to stay stocked longer than the staples aisle during shortages. People grab rice and pasta first. Popcorn kernels sit there waiting for the people who know better. Then there's instant potato flakes. And the reason these deserve a spot in your pantry comes down to one thing: fuel efficiency. In an emergency, cooking fuel is a resource you have to manage carefully. Potato flakes need nothing more than hot water. No cook time, no simmering, just hot water, stir, and you have a filling, comforting meal base in under 2 minutes. They work as a meal on their own, as a soup thickener, or as a binder in other dishes. Repackaged with oxygen absorbers, they last 25 years or more. A box costs $3 to $4, and psychologically, mashed potatoes are comfort food, which is exactly what people need when they're scared or exhausted. Now let's talk about the protein sources that don't require refrigeration, because this is a gap that sinks most emergency food plans. Powdered whole eggs. This is one of the most versatile and underused items in emergency food storage. Reconstituted powdered eggs scramble reasonably close to fresh eggs, and for baking, bread, pancakes, muffins, binding ingredients together, they perform identically. A 10-number can, which runs $20 to $30, gives you the equivalent of 70 to 80 eggs without a single one requiring refrigeration. Shelf life is 5 to 10 years in dry conditions. For the cost and the functionality, they're irreplaceable. Canned sardines are another protein source that most people overlook simply because of the stigma around them. But sardines are nutritionally exceptional. 20 grams of protein per can, high in omega-3 fatty acids, and because you're eating the small bones, they're one of the best non-dairy sources of calcium. Their mercury content is low compared to larger fish like tuna, which makes them safe to eat regularly over an extended period. They last 3 to 5 years, they eat well with crackers, mixed into rice or pasta, or mashed into a spread, and they're cheap enough to rotate easily using a simple first-in, first-out system. Finally in this category, peanut butter powder. Regular peanut butter is great, but it goes rancid within a year or two because of the high oil content. Peanut butter powder is pressed to remove most of that oil, which extends the shelf life to 4 to 5 years and dramatically reduces the storage space required. Mix it with water to make a spread, stir it into oatmeal or soups for a protein boost, or use it in doughs and sauces. A box runs $5 to $8 and adds both nutrition and flavor in a format that stores far more efficiently than jarred peanut butter. Here's something experienced preppers understand that beginners almost always miss. Surviving an emergency isn't just a physical challenge, it's a psychological one. When you're eating the same bland, colorless, flavorless food day after day, something happens to people. Energy drops, morale collapses, arguments start, small problems feel enormous. The food you eat has a direct impact on your mental state, your energy levels, and your ability to function. And yet most emergency food plans treat flavor as a luxury rather than a necessity. It isn't a luxury, it's part of survival. So, let's talk about the foods that keep people sane, motivated, and actually willing to eat, starting with 2 of the highest return flavor investments you can make for almost no money. Bouillon. Whether it's cubes, paste, or powder, bouillon is one of the most efficient morale tools in your entire emergency pantry. A $2 to $4 jar or box of chicken, beef, or vegetable bouillon transforms plain rice into a savory side dish, turns cooked lentils into a rich soup, and makes bland grains taste like an actual meal. The psychological impact of flavorful food in a stressful situation is consistently underestimated by people who haven't lived through an extended disruption. Bouillon doesn't just improve taste, it makes people want to eat, which keeps energy and morale up when you need them most. Shelf life is 2 or more years, and even beyond that, it loses intensity rather than safety. Right next to bouillon, meet nutritional yeast, a food that looks unassuming and does something remarkable. Sold as yellow flakes, nutritional yeast has a rich, savory, almost cheese-like flavor that adds serious depth to grains, soups, and beans. But the nutritional value is where it really earns its place. It's a complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids. Fortified versions are an excellent source of B vitamins, including B12, a nutrient that's nearly impossible to get from plant-based emergency foods, and one that becomes critically important in extended situations where your diet has been simplified. A canister runs $6 to $10 and lasts 2 or more years. Use it as a seasoning on practically anything, and you're simultaneously improving flavor and filling nutritional gaps that most emergency diets completely miss. Now let's talk about 2 foods that belong in a category of their own, the foods with essentially no expiration date. Vinegar first.
White vinegar, apple cider vinegar, specialty varieties, the acetate acid concentration in vinegar prevents microbial growth so effectively that properly stored vinegar is chemically unchanged after 20 years. It does not go bad. And its uses extend so far beyond cooking that it might be the single most versatile item in this entire list. Use it to pickle garden produce and extend its life by weeks or months. Use it as a dressing, a flavor enhancer, a way to tenderize tough ingredients. Use it to clean and disinfect surfaces and equipment. Use it to descale containers and cooking tools clogged with mineral buildup from compromised water sources. A gallon costs $3 to $4. There is almost no scenario in which having extra vinegar on hand becomes a burden. And then there's raw honey, which is in a category entirely its own. Honey does not expire. That is not marketing language. That is a documented biological fact. Archaeologists have found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that was still edible after thousands of years. The combination of low moisture content, high sugar concentration, natural hydrogen peroxide production, and antimicrobial compounds creates an environment where bacteria and mold simply cannot survive. If stored properly, sealed, away from moisture, raw honey will outlast every other item in your pantry by an almost incomprehensible margin. Beyond storage, honey pulls double duty in a way few foods can match. It's a baking ingredient, a natural sweetener for oatmeal and bread, a flavor enhancer, and it has legitimate first aid applications. Raw honey applied to wounds and burns creates an antimicrobial barrier that promotes healing. This has been documented and used in medical contexts for centuries. One important note, never give honey to children under 12 months of age due to the risk of infant botulism. For everyone else, it's one of the safest, most useful, most shelf-stable items you can possibly own. And here's something you might be surprised about honey and dark chocolate, which we're about to get.
In historical crisis situations, both of these items have served as barter currency. When conventional systems break down and people need to negotiate, trade, and build goodwill, items with perceived value become a form of currency. A jar of honey and a few bars of quality dark chocolate cost almost nothing right now. Their value in a disruption scenario is something else entirely. Which brings us to dark chocolate, and this is the item people most often dismiss as indulgent until they actually need it. Dark chocolate at 70% cacao or higher is not candy. It's a meaningful source of magnesium, iron, copper, and antioxidants. A single bar contains 500 to 600 calories. It doesn't require any preparation, it doesn't need refrigeration for reasonable periods, and its psychological effect in stressful situations is well documented. It elevates mood, provides quick energy, and gives people something to look forward to in an otherwise monotonous food rotation. A few dozen bars cost very little and provide optionality as a morale item for your household, as a trading asset, as a genuine comfort in genuinely hard circumstances. Now, let's bring all of this together, because the real power of these 15 foods isn't in any single item, it's in how they work as a system. You have your fat foundation, ghee and coconut oil covering cooking, flavor, calories, and even personal care for years without refrigeration. You have your protein sources, lentils, split peas, wheat berries, canned sardines, powdered eggs, peanut butter powder, and nutritional yeast covering every angle from plant protein to complete amino acids to omega-3 fatty acids. You have your dense carbohydrates, popcorn kernels, and potato flakes, both with multi-decade shelf lives and remarkable versatility. You have your flavor infrastructure, Bouillon and nutritional yeast, making everything edible and satisfying. And you have your forever foods, vinegar and raw honey, which never expire and serve functions that go well beyond the kitchen. Together, this is a pantry that covers calories, macronutrients, micronutrients, flavor, morale, and practical utility across scenarios ranging from a 3-day power outage to a months-long disruption. The implementation is simpler than most people expect. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars in a single shopping trip. Start small. Grab a jar of ghee and a bag of lentils this week. Next week, pick up vinegar and bouillon. The week after that, a few cans of sardines when they're on sale. Consistent, intentional additions over a few weeks will build a genuinely resilient food supply without straining your budget or your storage space. Store everything in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers to maximize shelf life. Rotate items with shorter windows so nothing goes to waste. And keep one thing front of mind throughout all of it. The goal isn't just to survive, it's to maintain your health, your energy, your morale, and your dignity for as long as it takes. One final note before you go, none of this matters without water. FEMA recommends a minimum of 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and basic sanitation. Water storage and purification need to accompany any food plan you build. It's the one resource every single item on this list depends on. The foods are waiting for you. Most of them are already at your grocery store, in the aisles you've never had a reason to stop in, until now. If this video gave you something useful, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who could use this information. Subscribe to Food Decider for more practical, no-nonsense content about eating smart and being ready, and we'll see you in the next one.